If you love the idea of coaching business owners for growth and success, but you hate the idea of marketing yourself as a business coach because of rejection, then this episode is just for you. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Welcome. Glad that you are here. Welcome to the Business Coaching Success Podcast. Today, we are talking about the idea that you may love coaching. You love the idea of coaching businesses to help them grow their profitability, their leadership, and their culture, but you hate the idea of marketing yourself. Mostly, if you're being frank and if you're being transparent with yourself, oftentimes it's because of rejection. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you some things to consider to prayerfully to solve that dilemma. Regardless if you are on our business coaching team and you're a part of our business coaching network, or maybe you're taking a peek at joining us. And if you aren't, or if you're thinking about it, you haven't talked to us about it, and you'd like to learn more about our complete and total done-for-you business coaching system, specifically for faith-based and Christian-based business coaches, you can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. There's some information you can get there, as well as book and explore the systems chat with us. Okay, so in different ways, I get feedback about this exact topic. I love the idea of coaching. I don't like the idea of marketing, or don't like the idea of, in quotations, selling myself. We're going to wrap our heads around that, and because I think that there is a shift, that if you have the shift, you solve the problem, which I'll explain. But before we do that, why? Why do we feel this way sometimes? One time, or at some point rather, coaching feels relational and purposeful and personal, and because of that, we have this friction all about, but then I got to go out there and turn around and just, sell myself, which, just real quick, that's not the way to do it as far as I'm concerned. Now, look, persuasion matters, right? I mean, selling is a part of life. I say it all the time. I have a ninth grade daughter who is in high school, and she persuades me getting ice cream almost every day. Even throughout the winter months, she loves ice cream. So even it'll be 8, 9 o'clock at night, and she'll come to me, and I can see it coming. And some can look at that and as if selling the idea or concept. I look at that as life is all about persuasion. If you have a dog, your dog will persuade you to rub its belly. You think that's silly, but think about it. Or take it on a walk, or a number of things. And we have 2 dogs. We love them, and they're constantly, looking at us with those little beady eyes, and they're communicating. But ultimately, they're persuading us more than anything else. And so you hear a lot that you got to put yourself out there, overcome objections. Here's how to handle rejections. And that frame by itself, which is what we hear, I call it noise, but that frame by itself is kind of, I think, what creates a significant portion, if you will, of the friction about we're viewing it the wrong way, in my opinion. Now, to be very clear, sales matter. Without sales, there is no economy, there is no world. And you're like, well, wait a minute, if sales matters, you're talking about persuasion, just bear with me. There's by far, you're going to sell cars, copiers, security systems, and there's competition between the two, and all that stuff. So sure, selling products and services in tangible things it's real. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to business coaching, where you are the coach, you've got to interact with that business owner and or their teams. There's a shift here, because it's no longer just about a product, choose product A or B. There is a relational equity piece here, and that's the part that matters more than anything. And so, truthfully, my experience has become that coaches don't hate marketing because we have to have marketing, but they hate the idea of what we call performative marketing, meaning they're only going to choose this because of me. They're only going to say yes because of how eloquent I am. They're only going to engage because of what I have done. That's all performative-based marketing, and that's the problem. We're going to address that in the next few minutes. Now, here's why rejection feels personal for coaches. So again, if we look at part of why we do the entire coaching process is that we care, right? We have experiences and wisdom based upon our backgrounds and what we've done. And all of that puts us in a place where we want to help guide, in our case with businesses, to help that business to be able to earn more profitability so that they can grow, expand, have more freedom, hire the right people, all those things. And so when someone says no, it feels like they're stepping on us personally. And it can transfer into the idea that we're not valuable. I don't believe in you. I don't trust you. And those things I have found really aren't actually truth by themselves. And so we have to understand, number one, there's two big shifts here that I want to really make sure that you're understanding. And one is, no is not a rejection of you. There may be a couple of times here or there that there was just friction between personalities or something like that. But even that is very few and far between. No is often bad timing, lack of clarity, potentially just mismatch of needs. Like just because you have this, even we have a complete and total solidified, solid system, A to Z for a coach. You've got the tools, the resources, and the components to be able to go and help them build a legitimate 7-figure plus business and then some if that's what they choose to want to do. Even with that, and we're teaching things about, how to cut costs correctly, because every dollar saved is the dollar earned. We're showing how to improve their, drip campaigns. In other words, communication to those who are yet to be customers and those who are customers. How do we get them to come back? How to have upsells and cross sells? How to improve their pricing? All those. We're not making up new strategies. We're helping them to understand those strategies one step at a time. Well, here's the thing. There still may be from either a timing, a clarity, or even a mismatch of needs based upon where they are and what's going on. And we look at that and we go, they just said no because, whatever. Well, but again, no by itself is not no, you're not worthy. You're not good enough. You're not trustworthy. It's actually rarely any of those things. So understanding those matters. Okay? Here's another example. When we look at mismatch of needs, you look at a dentist. And if I were to ask a dentist, or if I even were to ask you about the dentist, who needs your services as a dentist? Now, most people are going to respond back and say, oh, anyone with teeth. Well, that sounds like that would be an accurate statement, but that's actually completely incorrect. Because for the dentist to truly grow, and I'm talking about grow, sustainable, long-lasting, solid a dentist practice, would need to be able to hone in on their perfect avatar. Is that pediatrics? In other words, kids? Is that seniors? Those who are going to need dentures and things like that. There's because your services can shift at that point. So if I'm trying to be all things to all people, I'm going to get a lot more no's and a lot more friction points because I've not gotten clarity on the actual match of what I do. And it is the best thing in the world, even for me. When someone said, well, I'm looking to coach these people to do this, I'm like, that's fantastic. That's not at all what we do. We would not be aligned. So when you get that, but oftentimes as coaches, by the way, we will flex ourselves because we try to get every deal. And that creates and elevates friction. So When your identity, your personal identity is truly wrapped around your offer, then the rejection oftentimes feels very personal. We have to shift. And you may ask the question, well, how do you do that? And what exactly what you do? Well, one, it's shifting from the problem being rejection and this word exposure. For instance, marketing feels painful when you are the message. Marketing feels painful when you are the pitch. Marketing feels painful when you are the pressure. So when you put everything that's all about me, you, I, yeah. When someone says, no, it's just not going to be the thing, it's like, well, what's wrong with me? And that's the part that I think puts a huge hole in the overall, like, I take it personal. Because then when someone says no, I mean, I know coaches that it takes them a day or two to recover from someone that said no. We have to be incredibly realistic, by the way. We're not going to get everybody to say yes. It's not possible. We're going to talk about that in just a second, in a moment. But in understanding that we can shift the pain when we understand that the way we're giving the exposure should shift. Okay? So if you're doing everything about the way you're projecting yourself from a personality identity driven marketing, you're posting constantly, you're sharing your personal opinions daily, you're trying to just sell yourself, everything from now look, we want to be professional, we want to look professional, sound professional, but when you're dressing for success, like, sure, you can't walk in the room in your pajamas, although lots of people are doing that in the airports, which is weird. Nevertheless, you're clearly not going to do that, right? So, but we polish ourselves because we're trying to sell ourselves. What happens? That becomes extremely emotionally exhausting. And that improves and elevates the high sensitivity to rejection. But when you are systems-driven marketing, here's the shift. This is it. When you move away from a personality-driven marketing to a systems-driven marketing, things change. Why? I'm going to work more on my message, not just who I am. I'm going to work more on simple pathways for success and explaining how that works to a potential prospect. I'm going to improve, here it is, conversations and relationships rather than pitches. And I'm going to understand that rejection becomes data, not judgment. Now you may hear that maybe for the first time. You're like, say that again? I know people hate this. Say it louder in the back. For the people louder in the back. No, say it louder for the people in the back. There you go. I botched the whole thing. Here's the point. Now you say, well, BJ, I see you do a YouTube video. Right, but I'm trying to communicate a clear message. My point is, when you're just mentally trying to stay so polished because you believe that people are just buying into you, which, yes, there is a small element of that, but it's really about what you're saying and how that's going to help that business succeed. So if you don't have clarity in your message, you can have the sharpest suit in the world. They're going to say no. If you don't have simple pathways to show them how to get there, you can wash your car and armor all your tires all you want. When you pull up to the meetings and to the networking events, they're still going to say no. But when you begin to focus on building high relational to where they really know you, they begin to like you and trust you because of what you're saying of how you can actually help them, that's where it all shifts. And that's why, as a matter of fact, ironically, in the last couple of weeks with our business coaching team, we've been going through our entire 2026 business coaching playbook. And the very first thing as a part of the playbook is our message, our words, what we're saying to help improve why something works for the prospect. So a healthier way to think about marketing is more about creating clarity, not convincing. It's inviting people to conversations, not chasing approval. It's all about serving before selling. So if you met somebody today for the very first time, I don't care how you met them, whether it was a referral at a networking event, someone just introduced you through church, whatever. If you move, which happens all the time, if you move quickly into convincing because you think, oh my gosh, this person would be the greatest fit ever. I would be perfect to help them. You're already mentally setting yourself up for failure. Mentally meaning you're wearing your feelings on your sleeves because you've not spent any time really understanding where they're at, what's going on, why, and putting yourself in a place to serve. So marketing is not asking people to choose you. It's helping the right people recognize themselves and what's possible and what they need. So stop trying to just persuade for the sake of getting a deal, but persuade because you're helping them to get clarity upon how to improve their business, their profitability, their revenues, how to have the right people and the right butts on the seats on their team. And when you do that, that's what's going to transfer everything, because conversations matter more than anything else. Conversations, relationships, clarity of message of how, not just how you can help them, but it's showing them how business growth works. And when you're showing them how business growth works, this convincing nonsense begins to go away. Last thing, and this is the gold. When you understand metrics, and in our system we use, for most people, now not everyone, but most people, we use the 30% rule. What that means is that I understand that I'm only likely, in most scenarios, going to advance 30% of the people that I'm talking to the next phase. What do I mean by next phase? If I'm meeting someone for the very first time in whatever arena, and I begin some conversations, and again, we have frameworks for all this in our system, but I know that to have a deep, meaningful conversation with them, and I've talked to 100 people, and I'm using that as just a reference from easy math, I'm only going to really engage at a deeper level, probably 30 of them. Okay? Because I know that I'm not stressing over all the ones who are not wanting to engage with me like I would like to engage with them, because it's just the way it works. Now, when you have gotten really skilled, that number shifts higher to 50%, or even higher for that matter, but it's just good to use good, solid, a reasonable number, and we just see 30% is that number. Then, from those that we have meaningful conversations, in other words, we may have gone to lunch, a coffee, whatever, I'm going to make an invitation to them in our world to go to an assessment. From those, I'm likely only going to get 30% of them to say yes. Now, those are averages, right? Someone's going to do better, someone's going to do worse in the very beginning. We want as a goal to get to 50%. It makes a lot of things work a lot better, and that's the plan. But then we know. I'm not spinning my wheels. I talked to 10 people, and only a few of them are really, really interested in talk. Again, clarity, timing, match of needs, whatever, regardless of what you think about yourself and what you can do, meaning do for them. So when you put all this together, and I understand that there's a data metric, I understand that I'm not selling myself, I'm really getting clarity upon what's possible for them, then what happens is they begin to see you as a key element in helping them do those things. And it shifts. It really does. And then we don't have to take it personal anymore. We understand this is just part of the process. So, prayerfully, if you've been on the fence, you love coaching businesses, but this whole rejection thing and marketing and then selling myself, in quotations, if you're listening by audio, I did the air quotes, selling myself, that's been a friction point. It is, in my opinion, because of the way you've been viewing it. We want to move away from a traditional selling model and not worry so much about overcoming objections. It really is more about clarity for the business owner, helping them to see what's possible for their business, giving them simple pathways to understand this is how you do it, this is how it works, and then understanding the data-driven analytics of doing anything. You're just not going to bat 1,000. Yes, there are accelerant coaches. In other words, those who've been doing it for a while, they're really good with gift of gab, that just about everyone they talk to becomes a client. Yes, but that's like saying, the best of the best. It's like, no, everyone can't be Tom Brady. Everyone can't be Patrick Mahomes. Everyone can't be, Wayne Gretzky back in the day in hockey. Like, those are the guys that are on they're outliers. But then you always have averages because that's normal. So don't be focused on the outliers. Focus on the true, and then you get better. You master. That's why we call it business coach mastery. You get better at what you do, so that you can truly elevate yourself to what's possible in your business. In most cases, it only takes a few, less than 5 clients can give you a 6-figure plus business coaching practice, and then some, based upon what you charge and how you want to do it. Those are the types of things we work with you on in our team. If you want to know more about it, again, go to businesscoachmastery.com, and we'll talk to you about it there, okay? Until next time, take care.